Is Gerry with us, Todd?
He is from Steelers camp.
Okay. Gerry Dulac's been covering the Steelers since 1993, joining us from Steelers camp. Gerry, thanks for joining us. Help me understand when we find out who Mike Tomlin is going to give the nod to be the starting quarterback.
Well, Dan, good morning. It's always good to be with you. I don't think you really have to wait for any official proclamation. Russell Wilson was brought in for a reason, and that was to be their starting quarterback. And Justin Fields wouldn't be here if Kenny Pickett didn't have a hissy fit and they traded him. And so the intention all along was their belief was Russell Wilson gives them a better opportunity, obviously, than Kenny Pickett to maybe win a playoff game and get back on the postseason track. So, Justin Fields won 10 games in 3 years in Chicago, and aside from 12 practices at training camp and 8 possessions in the preseason, I don't think he's done anything to change their mind. There's really no debate here, unless Russell Wilson would get hurt. Now, do I think they might have some packages for Justin Fields, a play or two? I don't know, but I tell you they should, based on his skill set.
Yeah, it feels like Mike Tomlin had just been vague, or that it was up for grabs. Maybe I was reading too much into it. Maybe it was wishful reporting on my part, but just felt like he wasn't quite all in on Russell, even though when he first got him, then he said he's our starting quarterback, but then Justin Fields came in, and you're right, probably hasn't done anything to really stand out. But it brought me back to a time when you remember, 1996, with Cowher, with Mike Tomczak and Cordell Stewart. Similar, it feels like, just Tomczak, he's not Russell Wilson, but age-wise, and then you had Cordell Stewart, who is sort of the Justin Fields role. Can you see them kind of following that blueprint, that model, this year?
Yeah, and I think Jim Miller was involved in that quarterback competition, if you will, back in 96, if I'm not mistaken. But, Dan, he has been vague about it, and he always does that. He's not one to make official proclamations. And even a week or two ago, when I think heading into the first preseason game, and we were still up in training camp, and he was asked about who's his starting quarterback. Basically, that was the question, and basically his answer was, what's on the depth chart? And Russell Wilson was listed number one, and that's with him barely even taking any snaps at training camp. So I don't think there's any question that has changed. I mean, it hasn't, and I don't know that it ever has. And, the kindest thing he said was that might have been anything giving you some glean into what was happening is when he said, well, Russ is in the pole position, and he said that several months ago. That's about as much as you're going to get out of Mike Tomlin when it comes to saying, if there's any – I think he likes to have that little bit of mystery surround. I think he plays with the media. Not I think. I know he plays with the media a little bit, and he lets them think whatever they want to think.
Looking at the division, maybe the recent history with the Steelers, is there a scenario where Mike Tomlin would be on the hot seat after this season?
Well, I will say this. After the owner comes out and says effectively, he's grown impatient and, quote, it's time to start winning some playoff games. And you look at all the moves they've made, Dan, Russell Wilson is on resume is without question the biggest free agent they've ever brought in. Patrick Queen was given the biggest money they've ever given a free agent. Making the trade then for Justin Fields, another, quote, high-profile quarterback, albeit not a winning one. Trading, not being afraid to trade Kenny Pickett and Deontay Johnson to get a starting cornerback. Not sure that was still a great trade because they've depleted their wide receiver core. But even the pursuit of Brandon Ayuk, I mean, they've made a lot of big moves with the intention of saying, look, we need to turn this around. And so, to me, it's the greatest pressure, it's certainly public pressure ever put on Mike Tomlin. Now, does that mean he's on the hot seat? I've never really believed that's the case here until things start to really fall apart. And let's face it, the sky is falling here when they go 9-7, and most franchises in the league would be thrilled to be 9-7.
Great to talk to you. I know you have a busy day, and thanks for setting us straight on this, Gerry.
You got it, Dan. Good chat with you.
That's Gerry Dulac, who's been covering the Steelers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette since 1993.